also heard many well-known pastors argue the pre-tribulation rapture as fact, due to this reasoning of interpretation, and I quote, "We the people are the bride of Christ, because God will not leave his bride in the tribulation, as to say, he will beat up his bride, then return and say, let's go to dinner." While I can see their reasoning to this, and for some time I admit, I thought this was true from hearing many preach this interpretation, that we may in fact be the bride that Christ will return for. That is, until I decided to research it for myself in God's final word. What I found written in the Bible was opposite to what many well-known pastors preach today. The Bible states that we are not the bride of Christ, but rather the friends and guests of the bridegroom who, if worthy, are invited to the wedding in the last day. The bride of Christ, as the Bible states, is in fact something totally different than what we hear many preach today. I am worried where they are getting this interpretation from. Here are scriptures that states what I found as fact. Let's turn to Matthew chapter 9, verse 15. "And Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber mourn, as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast." Also stated in Mark chapter 2, verse 19, and Luke chapter 5, verse 34. Let's turn to Luke chapter 12, verse 4. "And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do." Now in John chapter 3, verse 29 we read, "He that had the bride is the bridegroom. But the friend of the bridegroom, which standeth and heareth him, rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This my joy therefore is fulfilled." John the Baptist calls himself the friend of the bridegroom, who hears the bridegroom's voice. Why did John not say, "The bride hears the voice of the bridegroom"? Let's read this next passage that also states we are his friends and not his bride. Let's turn to John chapter 15, verse 14 to 15. "Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you." So Christ himself calls us his friends, not his bride. Even if he did not call us his friends, why would he call his bride a servant? So if we are not the bride of Christ, who or what is the bride? Let's read this next scriptural passage. Let's turn to Revelations chapter 21, verse 2 to 3. "And I, John, saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and be their God." So here it states what the bride really is. It's not the church, or as Christ calls us his friends, but rather the holy city given by the Father, adorned in all glory for Christ. Here is another passage stating the holy city is the bride. Let's turn to Revelations chapter 21, verse 9. "And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel." So this sums up the misinterpretation by many that we are the bride of Christ. It is even stated that we will be his people, not his bride. If we study the book of Isaiah, we read that Christ will clothe us, who are worthy to be invited to the wedding feast, with garments of salvation. Let's turn to Isaiah chapter 61, verse 10. "I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God. For he had clothed me with the garments of salvation. He had covered me with the robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels." So we are clothed by Christ to attend the wedding, and the holy city is the wife/bride that Christ receives from the Father. The next passage also states that later on, people will even ask Christ about his wounds on his hands. Christ's reply, due to his friends, not his bride. Let's turn to Zechariah chapter 13, verse 6. And one shall say unto him, What are these wounds in thy hands? Then he shall answer, Those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. So the holy city is the bride adorned for Christ by the Father. We are his friends that, if worthy, are called and invited to the wedding feast, as we read in Matthew chapter 22, verse 2 to 14.